What's up, brick builders? Mayor Brick here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I am heading to St. Louis, Missouri for Brick Convention St. Louis. I've done Brick Convention before in Evansville, Indiana. I've not done the St. Louis show before. I'm so excited for this one. Let's head to St. Louis. I have some original custom mocks that I've made specific to the St. Louis area. I've also got my Buc-ee's and a couple other things that we're going to have on display. So let's go to St. Louis. All right, now that I'm all set up, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the builds that I brought to Brick Convention St. Louis. First one here is my Symphony Orchestra mock. We have a slew of characters and minifigs here in the audience. And then we have all of our musicians on the stage, of course, with some brick-built instruments, particularly in the brass and woodwinds, and then all of our strings and percussion players. Some of my favorite instruments here were the French horns using these yellow, I call them toilet pieces. I don't know what the technical name is, but you often use them in builds for toilets. And the trombone with very interesting build technique. I used some minifigure hands for the tuba keys, or valves, I think they're called. And then, of course, some brick-built percussion instruments like the bells, the cymbals, the snare drum, and the timpani. Now, I'm a cellist, and unfortunately, they don't make a Lego cello, so I had to use guitars and turn them upside down, but you have to use your imagination. It works. Next, we have my custom Buc-ee's mock here, which is my favorite to bring around to shows. I just absolutely love seeing kids come around the corner and they're like, Buc-ee's! They get so excited. It's so funny to watch. So this is probably the biggest display I have here today. It spans across 2 tables when you factor in the store as well as the gas pumps in the parking lot. So some of my favorite details here, of course, are the soda machines. You have to have those, and the coffee makers. You can't go to Buc-ee's and not have your beverages. Of course, we have the beef jerky wall here with all the different flavors and varieties of beef jerky in the glass case for you to peruse. We have our Texas Roundup brisket on the board. Stan, you have to have that at a Buc-ee's, right? And we have the 2 chefs here cutting up the brisket. You have the hot dogs, hamburgers, and all the different things you can buy, like your soda in the coolers, different merchandise. I have some of the Friends beavers here, which are meant to emulate like a stuffed beaver. And then, of course, the Buc-ee's t-shirts, which Citizen Brick sells. If you see them at a show that you're at, go ahead and pick some of those up. I think they technically call them zombie beavers for copyright reasons. Then we have our gas pumps here. You can't have Buc-ee's without the huge gas pumps. Now, I'm missing like 400 something, but I think you get the idea. And then, of course, you have to have it populated with all these vehicles and pedestrians. It wouldn't be a Buc-ee's without being pure chaos. Next is my St. Louis table, where I've built a couple of mocks specific for the St. Louis show, things that are local destinations that folks coming to the show would recognize. First here is Union Station, which is downtown St. Louis. Next up, we have Busch Stadium, which is where the St. Louis Cardinals play. And then, of course, I had to add a kiss cam. There's no CEOs in there, but got the Budweiser logo and the Cardinals on top. The kiss cam was a hit. Folks like seeing that. It was a pretty good laugh. And then I did some art here, just tracing out the St. Louis Cardinals logo and using some of the dots to make the mosaic. Next here we have the old Courthouse, which is downtown St. Louis. I did this on a micro scale. It was fun just to challenge myself with some smaller builds. It's actually harder to build smaller than it is large. Speaking of large, we have the City Museum here, which is the wildest place I've ever been to in my life. If you have a chance to go, you should go. But the school bus hanging off the corner, an airplane torn apart, castle ruins, and a giant slide. It kind of emulates exactly what it is. Next up is Anthoninos Taverna, which, if you're from the area, is on the hill. It started with my Guy Fieri minifigure. I had this minifig I got from Abby Dabbles, and I wanted to use it in a mock. So I looked for a local place that had good reviews that was featured on the show, and that's how I came up with Anthoninos. And of course, I had to emulate all the different features of it so I could include the filming of the episode there. I have the outside seating, the inside, got the big bar, the pizza oven. And then, of course, I had to go there when I was in St. Louis because I built it and I wanted to get some nummy food. And there we go. We got the pizza, and they're known for their toasted ravioli. Those were fire. And funny story, I guess a couple of people went through the show who knew the owner of Anthoninos, contacted them, and I got to gift the Anthoninos mock to the owner of Anthoninos. That's Anthony himself. And it was just a really cool connection and really fun experience being able to share the love of Lego and food with some local community members. So thanks again, Anthony, for stopping by. It was fun to meet you, and glad that's going to be on display in your restaurant. Next up, I have a micro version of the Gateway Arch. I actually had a larger version of this, which I could not for the life of me get to stand upright, so I had to settle on a smaller version. Then we have the Budweiser, or I should say the Anheuser Busch Factory in the Clydesdale in front. That was fun to do. Next up is a very unique location called the Ha Tonka Castle Ruins. This is actually a park in the Ozarks a couple hours away, and within it there's this old castle, I guess, that just has gone to ruins and has just sat there, and you can go hike there and go take a look. And I thought it was a pretty cool idea and subject for a mock. Then we have Ted Drew's Frozen Custard, which is a local ice cream, well, I guess local frozen custard shop. And this, I was just going for the name. I got some stickers online, and everybody recognized this one who was local to St. Louis. And then, of course, we have the St. Louis Blues logo to round out my St. Louis table. Then over here on this table, I have some Disney artwork and the Disney train. Now, the Botanical Garden set here, that of course is an official set. I thought it was beautiful though, and I wanted to showcase it on display at St. Louis. The Disney art here, you may have seen this. This is a set that comes with, I think, 12 different builds, but you can build it in a couple different ways. So I built up a couple different copies of it, made a nice backdrop with the white tiles, and I thought that really popped. The kids enjoyed going through each of them and trying to figure out what movie each of the prints were from. Then we have some of the micro builds, the Disney train, of course. And then I've always wanted to do some sort of film studio filming production scene. So I built a really mini scale one here. I think I'm going to do this on a bigger scale next time. But two different scenes here. We have the filming of Avatar and the filming of some Alien movie. I thought that would be a fun touch. And I have these golf carts, which I've always wanted to use in a build too. So I thought that was the perfect use case for them. Now, something that was very unique to this show that I've never seen at any LEGO show before is some live music. The displayer that was sharing the space with me, he and his mom, his name is Brad Elsop, he and his mom were there displaying their concert, which was a recreation of a Mercy Me live show. I guess they're friends with the band members. And but what was unique here is Brad, he's super talented. He's got a guitar, a bass, and a drum set, all of which are all decked out in Lego. He's basically covered them with a Lego wrap. And the bass drum of his drum set, he actually showed me the inside of it. It has all these supports made of Lego to obviously help support the weight, because wrapping something in Lego isn't going to make it any lighter. And what was really cool is he did some live performances each day of the show. He would go through and, record a little lick on the bass, and then he would overlay himself playing guitar on top of that, and then he would wrap it up with him playing the drums over that. So he's like live recording and performing in front of the audience, which I've never seen at any Lego show I've been to. It was the coolest thing. I'll put a little clip in here to show you kind of the process of, the bass, then the guitar, and then the drum set. gosh, that was just so cool. And to wrap up the video here, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the rest of the displays, show you some of the ones that I thought were particularly well done. There was a lot of good builds here, and I think the Gateway Lug from St. Louis was here as well. So there's a lot of master builders, a lot of folks that share the passion that I have, the hobby that I have, and it was great to partake in their company and be able to showcase our love for Lego and some of our custom builds with the St. Louis community. Let's go take a walk around and see some of the fun builds. hope you guys enjoyed the video today. I really enjoyed my time out in St. Louis, and it's such a wonderful community out there. I can't wait to go back next year. As far as next show, I think I'm going to be heading up to Romeoville, Illinois for the Ultimate Brick Show. I believe that's in September. And so if you're in that area, we would love to see you there. I'll definitely be bringing my Buc-ees and maybe a couple other mocks. And until then, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed the video today. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.